The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Stephanie Myers, President of the Boise Education Association and member of the Joint Insurance Committee, and I'm so happy that you have joined us for the third session of the Better You webinar series. Today's guests are Dr. Troy Adams and Dr. Mary Steinhardt, and we will start today with Dr. Troy Adams.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much. I want you all to know that I just got to spend some time in Boise, Idaho on Thursday, and it was awesome. And I understand you got a lot of snow on the weekend, so I will take the blame for that. We don't have any where I live, so that it's all good. But I am so thrilled that you joined us for this webinar. I'm going to toss to Dr. Steinhardt, and I'm going to let her take it from there. And I'm going to remember to let Isabel have a few minutes right at the end, Isabel Snell. So Dr. Steinhardt, whenever you're ready, take it over.
Well, all right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Adams. And thanks to everyone for listening in. Welcome to our third webinar titled Better You, Be Resilient by Unleashing the Power of Positivity. As we continue, we'll discuss the final two practices that you can use to grow your resilience, as well as transform a part of you that may be struggling. These include the practice of positivity and the practice of renewal. Of course, the power of this work is the synergy among the 5 practices. So briefly, let's reflect together and check in regarding the 3 resilient practices we've discussed so far. Reflect on an experience you've had at work when your focused, non-judgmental attitude helped facilitate awareness and insight, and you successfully resolved the stressful situation using adaptive coping strategies. Perhaps you calmly took some action to address the situation, or you talked with a colleague and made a plan to address the situation, perhaps reframing the situation and seeking support from additional colleagues. The practice of mindfulness is called the foundational practice because it diminishes our fight or flight response when we do feel stressed, in large part by activating the opposite, our relaxation response, and helping us to think more clearly. In turn, we're more likely to use the adaptive coping strategies you see on the slide rather than using maladaptive coping strategies like denial, blaming, making excuses, or shaming ourselves. In addition to helping you cope more effectively with stressful situations in your life, a mindfulness practice can also help you interpret stressful situations more positively. Even stop worrying about things over which you have no control. For example, a few weeks ago, a faculty member told me that for years, students who came late to her class really bothered her, and she found herself losing her concentration and feeling upset and angry toward the students. Then she learned that one student was coming late while traveling back and forth to San Antonio to spend time with her mom who had cancer. She said it instantly changed her perception about the student coming a few minutes late to her 9 a.m. class, given the 2-hour drive from San Antonio to Austin. She worked hard to welcome that student to class and was better able to tolerate the whispering between the student and her friend to help integrate her into the class session. This faculty member told me she isn't so quick now to judge students who come late to class. She also regularly practices the mindfulness meditation, "May I extend the most generous interpretation possible to the words and actions of others." And she added, even if a student doesn't have a good reason for coming late, my non-judgmental awareness helps me to stay calm rather than get upset with the student, and to use my best judgment in deciding how best to help that student learn. At our last webinar, we said that although it seems counterintuitive, some stress is actually good for us, and we can use adversity as an opportunity to grow. Just like stressing our body during exercise and then giving ourselves time to recover in order to grow stronger, we can use these same principles to grow stronger amid the emotional stress, the social stress, and the psychological stress in our lives. Let's briefly review the 3 components of lifting weights that we talked about to grow our psychological resilience. Lifting weights psychologically involves 3 things: taking responsibility, focusing on empowering interpretations, which are positive yet realistic thoughts, rather than negative thoughts, and creating meaningful connections with other people. This past week, with respect to the stressful situations you encountered, I hope you kept asking yourself, how will I take responsibility? How will I create more empowering thoughts about the situation? And how can I use the meaningful social connections in my life to help me resolve or manage the situation? Importantly, as you continue to practice the 3 components of using stress to grow, over time, taking greater responsibility will become automatic. You'll find yourself owning your power to choose and create a lot quicker. And if you take responsibility, in other words, go above the line on the responsibility model, you'll be more likely to have a positive or empowering thought, and you'll be more likely to reach out and connect with someone. On the other hand, if in response to a difficult situation you go below the line on the responsibility model, you're more likely to have a negative or disempowering interpretation of the situation and withdraw from the people around you. Since the 3 components are so interconnected, just start with any one of them to enhance your resilience during a stressful situation. Just connect with someone, or work through the ABCDE thinking model that we talked about, or take responsibility. At our last webinar, we also talked about the practice of self-leadership. Much like the conductor of an orchestra, or the best teacher or coach you ever had, our self is an active, compassionate leader that enables us to transform stressful situations into opportunities for growth. And my self is the same as your self. We all have the same self. The practice of mindfulness cultivates and enhances our self-energy. When we're in the energy of the self, the 9 C's as we call them, calm, clarity, curiosity, compassion, confidence, courage, creativity, connectedness, and contentment, it's much easier to use stress as an opportunity to grow. It's much easier for us to take responsibility, to focus on empowering interpretations of the stressful situations in our lives, and to create meaningful connections with other people. And I hope you recall that the main indicators when we're not leading with the self is feeling anxious or feeling angry. It's the same for all of us. So my hope is that you're noticing more and more when you're in self-energy and the connection between being in self-energy and resilience, and that you're noticing when some part of you is not in self-energy. And when this happens, you're able to help the part of you that's feeling anxious or angry, just like you'd help a student that is feeling anxious or angry. And when needed, you reach out for support from your colleagues and your loved ones. Why is this so important? Because when you have a lot of self-energy present, you find yourself taking responsibility automatically, thinking in positive ways, and creating more and more meaningful connections. In short, you'll build a stronger and stronger foundation of resilience. The next practice is the practice of positivity. Think about it. We all know negativity. Negativity is easy to spot, and it often looms large in our self-talk and in our judgments. Often, after missing the morning alarm clock on our phone, when we meant to get up and exercise before work, we say, I can't believe I let myself down again. I can't seem to get it right. What's wrong with me? In these moments, our negative emotions can seep into our entire body, raising our blood pressure and affecting our mental outlook. What's more, we start to find fault and blame everywhere. Historically, negative emotions like fear or anger were beneficial in activating our body's automatic and primitive fight or flight response. This response constricts our cognitive capacity in order to speed up our decision-making processes so we can alleviate the threat. And for sure, this response is helpful when we need to escape from a hungry bear or confront a hostile rival. However, emotions such as fear or anger are often maladaptive in circumstances that require more thoughtful actions, such as the sometimes persistent, chronic, and unrelenting stressors we are faced with today at work or home. In contrast to negative emotions, positive emotions, such as contentment and joy, elicit a variety of enduring benefits and ultimately improve our health and well-being. Let me explain what I mean using Barbara Fredrickson broaden and build theory of positive emotions, illustrated by the drawing you see on the slide. Barbara Fredrickson is a professor at UNC Chapel Hill. Fredrickson's theory has two awesome hypotheses: the broaden hypothesis and the build hypothesis. Let me explain. The broaden hypothesis states that positive emotions help expand our thoughts, expand the possibilities that come to mind, like a daylily. A daylily closes to darkness and opens to sunlight. So just like a daylily, positivity opens us up. It broadens and expands our mind, giving us a larger repertoire of coping resources that we can use in creative and flexible ways. Positive emotions also enhance our ability to downregulate lingering negative emotions. In other words, positivity puts the brakes on negativity. You can look past things that separate you from others and towards what you have in common, your common goals. Your positivity and openness feed on each other and reinforce each other, just like the daylily that opens and faces towards the sunlight. Over time, our broadened mind and greater repertoire of adaptive coping strategies helps us build enduring resources. We build up our knowledge. We build up our social resources, our emotional resources. We build up our psychological resources. That's the build hypothesis. In short, we build enduring personal resources. These personal resources enhance our resilience, and they ultimately enhance our health and well-being and our fulfillment and happiness in life. This process produces more and more experience of positive emotions and creates an upward spiral of growth. In short, as Barbara Fredrickson says in her awesome book called Positivity, positivity fuels resilience and human flourishing. I was so impressed with Fredrickson's work that I invited her to Austin to give a talk and meet a group of my students. One of my fondest memories of this time was Fredrickson's story about a sailboat. I use it all the time with my own students now, and you can use it too with your students. Let me explain. Fredrickson's research group has found that a ratio of 3 positive emotions to 1 negative emotion results in what she calls flourishing or resilience, whereas a ratio of less than 3 positive emotions to every 1 negative emotion results in languishing, or what we might call longing for more or stuck in a rut. Think about a sailboat. The sail is about 3 times the keel, or a ratio of about 3 to 1. So we aren't saying no negative emotions, because without the keel, the boat would capsize or slide aimlessly across the water. What we are saying is appropriate negativity, and at a ratio of about 3 to 1. For example, we feel gratitude, wonder, excitement, and we feel a little anxiety. Or we feel hope, pride, appreciation, and we feel a little anger. A ratio of 3 to 1 fuels resilience, fuels a flourishing life. Now, there's one very significant point about the fact that positivity fuels resilience and human flourishing. This human flourishing that you experience is not just at the individual level. Resilience promotes connection with others and can change an entire community or school. According to Fredrickson, the secret is that as you tap into your own positivity, you also begin to tap into the positivity of others. This creates a synergy among members of a school or community where 10 plus 10 is 100 and fuels greater positivity and resilience. To increase your positivity, Fredrickson suggests that you pay attention to those experiences throughout your day that elicit positive emotions. We might call these positivity well springs. And you can also pay attention to the places in your day that are filled with some negativity. You might call those negativity landmines. When you encounter negativity landmines, and we all do, look for ways to diffuse your negativity landmines by changing the meaning you give to the situation, or attending to different aspects of the person that brings up the negativity in you, or by working hard not to push the other person's buttons, or react negatively when you feel hurt. Be sincere, follow your passions, and apply your strengths throughout the day. Run with other people's strengths and do your best to overlook their weaknesses. And most importantly, try and stay in the energy of self-leadership, perhaps even repeating that wonderful mindfulness meditation. May I extend the most generous interpretation possible to the words and actions of others. The fifth practice to enhance our resilience, the practice of renewal, is one of my very favorites. It's the practice of wellness. It's built on the famous Aesop's fable about the goose and the golden egg. It's the story of a struggling farmer down on his luck who comes across a golden egg. At first he thought someone was trying to trick him. But then he thinks, what do I have to lose? So he tested the egg and found out, indeed, it was pure gold. And the next day he found another golden egg. And the next day another, until soon he became very wealthy, but also very greedy. He wanted all the golden eggs. So he devised a plan to kill the goose. But then, of course, when he killed the goose and reached inside, he found no golden eggs. The essence of this little story reflects the importance of the practice of renewal. Stephen Covey, in his classic book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, calls this balance between taking care of the goose and getting more golden eggs the PPC balance. P stands for production, the results that you're after, the golden eggs. PC stands for production capability, the resources that help you produce the results that you want. In other words, the goose. To get more of what you want, more golden eggs, you have to take care of the resource, the goose. The goose is you. You have probably experienced working really hard to get some result in your life, some golden egg. But at some point, if we push ourselves too hard, we get sick. We must take care of ourselves to get more golden eggs. However, at the same time, we can't spend all of our time taking care of ourselves and never focusing on our results, our golden eggs, the result of our effort. The key is the PPC balance. Again, P is production of desired results. It's what we want, the golden eggs. And PC is production capability. We're taking care of the assets, the resources that help us get what we want. So let's talk briefly about taking care of the goose, taking care of you. The wellness model you see here was created by, yes, of course, the famous Dr. Troy Adams during his dissertation work at the University of Texas at Austin. Now, some schools may have different dimensions of wellness. That doesn't really matter. You can have whatever wellness dimensions that are important to you, but these are the ones I like. The point is, you want to increase the magnitude or strength in each wellness dimension, as well as the balance across the wellness dimension. Each wellness dimension enhances our health. As I describe each dimension of your perceived wellness, I want you to ask yourself an important question. What is the best source of increasing your wellness in that dimension? For example, your physical dimension, your physical wellness is defined as a positive perception and expectation of your physical health. You expect good physical health. What is your best source for increasing your physical wellness? For example, for me, it's walking to the end of the street in our neighborhood with my daughter. That's my best source of nurturing my physical wellness. What is your best source to enhance your physical wellness? I even suggest that you write it down. More positive perceptions of your physical health are associated with fewer physical pain symptoms and less disease. Your social wellness is defined as the perception of having support available from family or friends in times of need, and the perception of being a valued support provider. In other words, the ability to give love and receive love. What is your best source of social wellness? Perhaps it is spending time with loved ones at a family reunion, or going to your book club, or having coffee with a dear friend. Whatever it is, write it down. More positive perceptions of your social wellness are positively associated with life satisfaction and physical and psychological well-being. So what is your best source of social wellness? Write it down. Your psychological wellness is defined as a general perception that you will experience positive outcomes to the events and circumstances of your life. This is often referred to as dispositional optimism. You see the glass as half full rather than half empty, and you believe that situations and circumstances will ultimately produce positive outcomes. What is your best source of psychological wellness? I recently discovered listening to the music channel called Music Choice in the station called Soundscapes, which plays relaxing music while inspirational quotes come on and off the screen. I feel uplifted and inspired after listening and reading these quotes for about 10 minutes each day. More positive perceptions of our psychological well-being are associated with higher overall well-being and less anxiety and less maladaptive coping. So think about your best source for enhancing your psychological wellness, your optimism, and write it down. Your intellectual wellness is defined as the perception of being internally energized by an optimal amount of intellectually stimulating activity. What is your best source of intellectual wellness? In a classic study of nursing home residents, those who were given responsibility for watering the plants in their room versus those who had the plants watered by the nursing home staff were more active, healthier, and had a lower mortality rate. Their minds were challenged. Their minds were stimulated. I found that I like to watch the news while walking on the treadmill. That way I'm more up to date on the news and I feel good because I'm creating a synergy between my physical wellness and my intellectual wellness. So, what is your best source of intellectual wellness? And please write it down. Your emotional wellness is defined as a perception of having a secure self-identity and a positive self-regard. In other words, you know who you are and you like who you are. Self-esteem is a major part of emotional wellness and one of the strongest predictors of our general well-being. Often people nurture their emotional well-being by being active in a cause for which they are passionate about and somehow related to who they are. For example, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Others join a support group or a book club. What is your best source of emotional wellness? And write it down. And finally, our spiritual wellness is defined as a positive perception of meaning and purpose in one's life. Individuals who perceive greater meaning and purpose in their lives tend to be less lonely and have less depressive symptoms. Often people nurture their spiritual wellness by going to church or through interacting with nature. Think about it. What is your best source of spiritual wellness? And write it down. Okay, now that you've reflected on your best source of renewal in each wellness dimension, the next big question for you to reflect on is, did you engage in that source of renewal last week? If so, I hope you notice how it helped take good care of you. It took care of the goose and it enabled you to get better results. If you didn't, don't judge yourself, but reflect with your non-judgmental awareness as to why not, and recommit to taking care of yourself, to spending time each day taking care of the goose, such that you can obtain more of the things you need and want, the golden eggs. Finally, see if you can expand on the number of activities in each wellness dimension that nurture you. For example, if walking is your best source of physical renewal, try something else, perhaps yoga or cycling. If date night is your best source of social renewal, try joining a group that you're passionate about. And build synergy between the dimensions. For example, going on a walk with friends nurtures both the physical and social wellness dimensions. Joining a book club may nurture your social and your intellectual wellness. I want to thank you again for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to these webinars. As I said before, I'm honored to do this series of webinars focused on resilience, not only because I have the pleasure of working with Dr. Adams, but also because I come from a family of educators. So I know the tremendous impact you have on the lives of so many young people. My hope is that you continue these 5 resilience practices on a daily basis to bring out the best in yourself. The practice of mindfulness, the practice of using stress to grow, the practice of self-leadership, the practice of positivity, and the practice of renewal. If you've enjoyed this work, I'd like to suggest 2 additional books that you might enjoy. Each book discusses 10 characteristics of resilient individuals. These 10 are very similar to the 5 practices that we've just discussed. The first book is titled Resilience, The Science of Mastering Life's Greatest Challenges by 2 physicians from Yale. You can see their list of 10 resilient characteristics on the slide. Number 1 is optimism, being optimistic, having an optimistic yet realistic outlook, believing in a brighter future, facing your fears, number 2, and having an adaptive response to those fears. Number 3, having a moral compass, doing what's right. 4, drawing on your religion or your spirituality. 5, drawing on social support, seeking and accepting support from others. That's the giving love and receiving love that we talked about. Number 6, have role models. Follow others that can provide a roadmap that have gone before you. 7, train your body, strengthen your body. 8, grow your mind, challenge your mind and your heart. Number 9, practice cognitive and emotional flexibility. And 10, look for meaning in the midst of adversity. Find meaning, purpose, and growth in life. Here's another set of 10. This comes from the book, The Power of Resilience, Achieving Balance, Confidence, and Personal Strength in Your Life. This is by a group from Harvard. You can see their similar list of 10 resilience characteristics on the slide. The first is rewriting your negative scripts. This has to do with changing negative self-talk and being in positivity. Second, become stress hardy versus stressed out. A hardy personality perceives a challenge, makes a commitment based on your values, and takes control rather than giving control away. 3, view life through the eyes of others with empathy, those that love you. 4, communicate effectively. 5, accept yourself and others, both their strengths and their vulnerabilities. 6, make connections and display compassion. 7, deal effectively with mistakes. Look for opportunities in mistakes. 7, deal well with your success. Have a sense of pride and accomplishment in your hard work. I'm up to 9. Develop self-discipline and self-control while remaining flexible and spontaneous with yourself. And last, maintain a resilient lifestyle. Have a plan, just like your financial or exercise plan. Have a plan for your resilience. Finally, I want to thank Dr. Adams for this experience. I've enjoyed it very much. Thank all of you for listening. I'm happy to answer any question you folks might have. And please let me know if there's any way I can support you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Steinhardt. I just have 1,000 different questions running through my own personal head. And I'm sorry, I cut out there for a little bit. I know other people have questions as well. But one of the questions I have is, there've got to be 1,000 different resources on resilience, and you're really, really nice to have mentioned 2 of them. Are there any other resilience resources? But think about the past, things that you've read, things that would be useful. Think about the audience we're dealing with. A lot of the people, the teachers who are listening, are taking the resources you share directly into the classroom. So junior high, high school, anything you can think of. So now's your opportunity to share any of that.
I think I would start with 2 books. They're both by Brene Brown. One is called The Gifts of Imperfection, and the second one is Daring Greatly.
Okay.
The Gifts of Imperfection. It's all about accepting ourselves for who we are and the gifts that we have. And the second book, Daring Greatly, is to be all in and go for it. Awesome. My favorite of her books, there's another book that she has called Rising Strong. That's also a good book. The essence of that book is fall, get up, try again.
What about, there's that poem that everybody's read about falling down and getting up. Are there any resources you can think of that would be that get across the resilience message? Maybe besides that poem.
Yeah, I think the book Rising Strong is good for that. I think Daring Greatly also gets at that.
Awesome. That's so great. We will. I know there are lots of other questions. We've had many people who said thank you and thank you with lots of exclamation points. I'm going to toss to Isabel now, who's going to give out a reminder about how people can participate and get the content from this webinar, as well as get credit for attending the webinar. So Isabel, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Adams, and thank you, Dr. Steinhardt. Before we finish, I would like to thank again Dr. Adams and WellSteps for helping us coordinate these webinars, and of course, Dr. Steinhardt, who shares her expertise and time. We thank you, and you broadcasted all the way from Austin, Texas, again, my home state, so thank you very much. Remember, just a couple of things. If you called in using the 1-800 number by phone, you'll have to get the Google form from me so you can get your points. If you registered and you joined the webinar, you should get those points automatically. And again, we don't upload points right away. We wait about 2 weeks because some people do request the recorded webinar, and that will be available tomorrow. If you contact me at wellness@boiseschools.org, I will have that available. Other than that, again, this brings us to the end of our webinar series, and I'm kind of sad about that, but we will come back soon with some more great stuff.
Thanks, everyone.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Steinhardt.
Oh, thank you, Isabel. Pleasure.